Hello, hi. Today is Saturday. We are here in the middle of the Central Park, Manhattan, and I'm taking a walk with Simon Wong. Simon is somebody very special from our Committee of 100 network, and he is one of the most interesting Chinese American I have met so far in Manhattan. So let Simon tell you his story. So Simon, are you from Hong Kong?
Yeah.
Yes. So what is your Chinese name?
黃恆基。
恒基即係永恆嘅恆，即係基礎嘅基。And then tell me what.
Cantonese, by the way.
Yes, that's in Cantonese. And you do speak Cantonese, right?
Yes.
So tell us. So what is your story? When did you come to U.S. or you're born here, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, I was born in Canada, close to Toronto area, and then my family got me back to Hong Kong. Grew up in Hong Kong until the year after turnover in 1998, and that's when we moved to U.S. in Florida.
Okay, so you grew up in U.S. You were born in Canada and you grew up in Florida. So when did you come to Manhattan?
Manhattan, it was almost 2010. That's right after a few years after I finished college, and I done Teach for America as a teacher, so taught in underserving schools in Jacksonville, Florida, and then in South Carolina back then as a policy analyst, and able to get back then very much unknown. Her name was Nikki Haley to become governor in South Carolina.
Yes. Yeah. So how did you get into the business you're involved now?
Yeah, long story short, I want to get out from the public sector because public sector to me is a little bit inefficient, so I want to go to the private sector. Got into consulting with Accenture, done a lot of transformation and strategy deals, primarily on the private equity and activist side, and from there, much more involved, after I left consulting, and just done it on like 2 to 3 years of rapid transformations, on whether private equity owned or activist investor, influenced publicly traded firms, and yeah, that's how my journey has progressed.
I remember that when I met you last year, that you were telling me that you're actually an investor, but taking a sabbatical and doing something very extreme. I mean, really extreme, okay? Yesterday, Simon just posted a LinkedIn with photos that he took during his journey, and so these are not like, you can't be kidding. So let me hear your story.
So yeah, so the last role that I was with GXO, I was leading the transformation at the Americas and Asia Pacific region, and done a lot of things, over there. But I've been a mountaineer.
Mountaineer.
Yes, so I've done a lot of different climbings, but then I also start expanding my adventure expeditions into the polar regions, and 2022 went to Swaba, do a quick 1 week and a half ski and sled trip, and that really I opened up and said, okay, I want to do something longer, and you went to ski to the South Pole, so Greenland become part of the journey. And
Greenland.
Yeah.
Are you there? Are you there for Trump?
I think maybe he followed us, because we ski Greenland back in last summer before it became a big topic in America.
Oh yes. So tell us about. So what did you do in Greenland?
So there was 3 different focus. The first focus obviously is the expedition side, which is we ski from the east side of Greenland, from Tasiilaq all the way to the west coast on Kangerlussuaq, which is 600 kilometers, and it's all human power. Obviously, I mean that we have to carry everything and ski, and when we say carry everything, it literally is so remote that it's not like in the city that you can just stop by a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So to carry our tents and food, so my sled was 200 pounds.
I saw you actually laying out your snacks and supplies for that trip on the bed, and it felt and
lots of unhealthy food.
Lots of unhealthy food, but it's good enough for calories. Lots
Yes.
of processed food. but that's what you need for survival.
Is
I remember we met up after he returned from Greenland. He was like, I'm in calorie deficit mode, so I can eat as much as I can.
and I lost 16 pounds from that trip.
16 pounds.
In 32 days, so half a pound on average per day.
Oh my gosh, how much do you weigh now?
Right now is 140.
Okay,
Yeah.
and you see, and Simon lives in the city, but he has a very rigorous routine of training, not only his body but his mind. And I think there's something we all can learn from him. So share your secret, Simon.
Yeah, so there's two things, right? Number one is the day-to-day resilience, because for example, like when we ski in Greenland and Northwest Passage, we literally every day we wake up, we obviously immediately prepare, for our food, and then we pack our tent and then, start going, right? Because we go from wherever the time and the sunlight allowed,
Yes.
So we ski from 7 hours to 12 hours, right?
Wow.
And then that's a lot, right? In each
That is a
hour,
lot.
we burn around 400 to 600 calories. And then immediately afterward, we take out the tents, and then cook, and then just, making sure that we have enough recovery, and we're doing day-to-day basis, right? There's no rest day, in the 32 days in Greenland, we only have one
There's
rest
no
day.
rest day. You can't stay in the middle.
Yeah, or you left behind,
Yeah, and then you know what? They have a Starlink, so that's why he was able to post all the pictures and videos.
Yeah, so a big part of it is is the ability to handle the high stress loads and be resilient and think about how to properly on a day-to-day basis figure out the operating system on your own, so you can sustain the high pressure, the different environments, because because we don't just ski on a stable environment. Sometimes it could be in the whiteout conditions. Sometimes
Yeah.
we see polar bear tracks, so we have to start alerting, So there's a lot of different things, right? And then second is once the entire trip is over,
Yes.
your body has experienced so much high stress, and as everyone has experienced, after a long project or a long deal,
Yes.
there's exhaustions.
Same as it's like for us women, probably it's after giving birth to a baby.
I cannot compare that. I cannot compare that because I think it's much tougher job, so.
Yeah, but it's like
But
the end
kudos,
of it,
kudos
right?
to the
Yes.
to the female, who does all of those responsibilities. So.
Yes.
But what I'm trying to say is it's after such a long, stressful environment. It's your body need to adapt to back into the recovery mode.
Okay.
And then the recovery mode is just not sitting around, because recovery mode can be short or long, or can be for long term.
Wow.
Mean much longer if you don't do it deliberately
Yeah.
with the right
Wait.
approach.
My arm is getting really tired, so I'm gonna change side. Okay, now I'm on this side. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Beth.
So we're back, and then for bodies. Okay, let me just adjust this carefully a little bit so they can see you. So you said so your body changes, but what about your mind? When
Yeah.
we are in the gym, right? When the coaches are there, I beat you up. I say, oh yeah, you need to. It's all about the mind. But
It
I
is.
think it's a connection too. How do you establish that connection and make your body work for your mind?
Yeah, so you have to have connect. Actually, you have to connect on both. So you cannot separate between the mind and the body, because your mind obviously has much more of the longer term sustain. On high stress, whether it's actually physical or actually at work. But at the same time, it's your body is the one that help making all the blood flowing.
Yes.
So that's why a lot of people say that, hey, even wherever stressful situation, take a walk, just like what we are doing in the Central
Take a
Park.
walk, yes.
Yeah, or go for a swim, go for a short, bike ride. All of those, actually help promoting your mind. From a recovery standpoint, it's just how we naturally progress. So always finding the time, to carve out, because this one that is focused, but then there's also one is figure a way to making sure you optimize it for the long term.
So you hear that. So organizational skill, operating system, and also give your body the break, and also connect your body with the mind, but also understand and take your pace.
Yeah, and then the mind is about your nervous system, because your mind is just nerve, right? It's
Yeah.
connecting all the way down to your digits, etc. So it's about like how to balance between your sympathetic and parasympathetic systems.
We would like to hear a real story, and then so probably not so glamorous, but what happened during your trip?
Like for example,
Whatever, like maybe you were homesick, and what were you thinking, like in that sleeping bag in the tent? Have you ever doubted yourself?
oh yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us.
Or I mean, I think I at least for me, like always set the sensing of the fear. I think fear is good. Fear is mean that I sense the environment, but then how to manage it and not
How do you
become
do it?
panic.
Yes.
Because there's a difference between like fearless and panic. Fearless meaning that you actually don't care about what's going on and just like charge. That actually is danger.
That is dangerous. Yes.
So I don't know why people praise about like fearless leader. I don't want to be a fearless leader. I want to
Yeah.
be a fearful leader who manage the fear.
Okay. Yes. Well said. So what happened? So how do you manage that fear?
Yeah, so a big part of that is like number one is like the cold. For example, the Northwest Passage was starting out as around like -42 to -43 °F. That's very cold, and we're going to do that for 20 days. So I wasn't so sure. It's like okay, how my body will sustain.
And you're from Hong Kong. You're Chinese. Look at how skinny you are. You don't even have fat reserves.
And good in Florida, good.
Yeah.
And also good.
Oh yeah, you grew up in Florida.
It's such a similar place, right? The Arctic and Florida, right? And Hong Kong.
Right.
But a big part of that is like is thinking about like okay the environment, and then if it's long term, how to sustain it. So a lot of it is like and start thinking about how to do the adjustment. And obviously the temperature got better over time, and also like the calorie deficit, the potential danger on the environment, whether it's how to taking care of the potential frostbites. Literally all we have to do is just exposing our hand by accident for like a few minutes out in the cold, and you can easily able to lose your finger. So a lot of it is like meticulous operations. Having a really rigid, not only routine, but also like mindfulness. On whatever you do. And funny enough, it's like like we always call out in the polar expeditions. We become polar explorer, right? We always say that polar explorers are lazy. We're actually lazy in a strategic way, meaning that every single actions that we do is about conserving the energy, but very intentional. And I think that's very important. It's not just in exploration, but everything that we do in the real world is like how to be, like making sure that everything has the purposeful, so that you direct the energy on the most important thing. It's about how to prioritize, because when you prioritize, then that's how you're able to manage that fear, manage the cortisol.
Actually this you just inspired me, because I think for like even economy right now, right? If you're in like an uncertain a spot right now, like what we're seeing, maybe being active is not a good thing to go, right? Maybe that is a time just to pause, like you said, like polar bears, to pause and preserve and to reflect and be strategic, right? And then place your priority, not just running around and chasing the up and downs.
Yes, like how to weeding out the noises. So it's easy that we go into the mode of urgency mode, because it's our survival capability, which is important. For example, like let's say that if we ever actually see a polar bear in front of us, okay, that's urgency mode, right? Which we didn't happen, right?
But
that's
you were trained for.
Yeah, but we have to execute, right? But then but then let's say that we saw, instead of seeing the polar bear in front of us, we saw polar bear track.
Yes.
So then we can, instead of like having that super reactive mode, it's like okay, let's get out the gun, etc. Let's figure out, it's like okay, based on the track, how deep is it? How long was it ago? Like looking around, so start thinking about like okay, what mode should I operate? Should I operate in the urgency mode, or should I need to operate in the clarity mode? The clarity mode means that start analyzing all the different noises and then determine what are the proper next steps. Because sometimes it's not just like reacting and then act right away may not necessarily the best way.
Yeah.
Like we should tend to have the oriented to actions, because I think that's how all successful leaders should be. But there's always a balance between having that clarity and act afterwards.
The clarity for leadership. We don't hear a lot of this, especially for somebody who had just done such extreme expedition. And these are all the pearls of wisdom that, Simon took away from his trip. And he's also a very well-respected member at the New York Explorers Club. And this year you were awarded
an expedition thread for the Northwest Passage. Earlier I'll talk about there are three major objectives on all those polar expeditions. Obviously, one I'll talk about is the expedition itself, but then second is the science part of that. So the Explorers Club obviously is about the conservations and also the scientific expansions about how explorations can help humanities. So as part of that, as we know, there's a lot of climate oriented research on the polar regions, including the Arctic, and a big part of that is the pollutions. So not many people are able to go inside inland of Greenland or the frozen sea ice of the Northwest Passage. So I help collecting the water and the ice sample so that I can send it back to the researcher at University of California, San Diego, the Scripps Oceanography Institute, to really understand about the actual pollution over there, and then what the potential implication out from that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Simon. I don't want to use big words, but I think you're doing, very important work for humanity.
Thank you.
And for the environment, for our mother Earth.
A little bit.
Yes, and this is on your own, and and thank you that not. And I think, especially in this AI age, everybody was talking about something virtual, but you actually have done, you walk the talk, and you were out there, you put yourself out there. That's not something easy, especially I think for your brothers, sisters, your parents, they must be worried about you a lot, but you're doing this for a bigger cause. Thank you, Ayman. Thank you, Simon.